In a remote cave in Nevada, surrounded by the desolate silence of the Great Basin Desert, a discovery in 1940 lay undisturbed for decades. At first glance, it seemed like just another archaeological find: bones, wrappings, and ancient tools buried beneath the dust of time. But what scientists would eventually uncover about this man would shake the foundation of everything we thought we knew about the first people to set foot on the North American continent. His name, the Spirit Caveman, and his story, told not just by bone, but by DNA, would ignite controversy, rewrite textbooks, and stir fierce debates between scientists and Native American tribes. This is not just a tale about ancient remains. It is a saga about identity, heritage, science, and the power of truth lying dormant for over 10,000 years. From a forgotten mummy to a genetic bombshell, the Spirit Caveman forced a reckoning with the past and a re-examination of American prehistory. Who was this man? Where did he come from? And why did the government fight for decades to keep him locked in a vault, away from the very people who claimed him as an ancestor? The mystery of the Spirit Caveman is not just a story of archaeology, it is a story of politics, culture, and justice. The year was 1940. Sidney and Georgia Wheeler, two amateur archaeologists working for the Nevada State Parks Commission, were conducting a survey of caves near Fallon, Nevada. Deep inside a place known as Spirit Cave, among the brittle layers of dust and debris, they came upon a discovery that would haunt American archaeology for decades: a partially mummified human body lying in a shallow grave. The body was wrapped in woven tool mats, with remnants of clothing and artifacts placed carefully beside it, suggesting a deliberate burial. The Wheelers believed the remains were around 1,500 to 2,000 years old, a reasonable assumption based on known timelines of native habitation. The mummy was cataloged and stored at the Nevada State Museum, quietly forgotten for more than half a century. But something about the burial puzzled those who revisited the find years later. The wrappings and preservation were unlike any other burials from the region. The skull shape didn't seem to match the morphology typically associated with Native American remains from that era. In the mid-1990s, a forensic anthropologist named Dr. Douglas Owsley, working at the Smithsonian Institution, became interested in Spirit Caveman and requested further examination. When radiocarbon dating was finally performed in 1996, the results shocked everyone. The Spirit Caveman was not 1,500 years old. He was over 9,400 years old. That made him not only the oldest mummy ever discovered in North America, but one of the oldest human remains ever found on the continent. Period. This revelation had immediate implications. If someone was living and dying in North America over 9,000 years ago, it would dramatically challenge the long-accepted Clovis first theory that human settlement began only around 13,000 years ago after crossing the Bering Land Bridge. The Spirit Caveman predated many known cultures in the region and seemed physically distinct from modern Native American populations. Some researchers speculated he might have represented an entirely separate migration into the Americas, possibly from Southeast Asia or even Europe, setting off a firestorm of controversy. The moment the Spirit Caveman's age became public knowledge, everything changed. For anthropologists, it was a thrilling discovery, offering a rare window into ancient American life. But for Native American tribes, particularly the Fallon Paiute Shoshone tribe, who had long considered the land sacred, it was a violation. The tribe claimed the remains under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, NAGPRE, a federal law requiring institutions to return native remains and artifacts to their affiliated tribes. The tribe argued that Spirit Caveman was one of their ancestors and demanded his immediate return. The U.S. government disagreed, citing the lack of direct cultural affiliation between the tribe, and the mummy, the Department of the Interior, ruled that the remains should remain in federal custody. This decision sparked a lengthy legal battle that lasted more than 2 decades. On one side were scientists arguing for further study and preservation of a rare and valuable find. On the other side were tribal leaders who saw the situation as yet another instance of cultural theft and institutional disrespect. Dr. Owsley and other researchers continued to examine the remains. To them, the spirit caveman represented a vital piece of the puzzle in understanding how early humans populated the Americas. His skull had dolichocephalic, long-headed features, unlike most Native American populations, which raised further questions about his origin. Some posited he might be related to the ancient Jomon people of Japan or even European groups, a theory that was highly controversial and largely rejected by most Native American scholars. Meanwhile, the Falin Paiute Shoshone tribe maintained their position. They said oral traditions long described the existence of their ancestors in the region going back thousands of years, far before the dates now being debated by scientists. For them, this wasn't just about science. It was about spiritual integrity, dignity, and justice. The remains were sacred, and the refusal to return them was seen as an extension of colonial injustice. As court battles dragged on and political pressure grew, the tension between scientific inquiry and cultural rights only intensified. The question loomed: who gets to tell the story of the dead? Scientists with data or descendants with tradition? Everything changed again in 2015, when technology finally caught up with the mystery. Advances in DNA extraction and sequencing allowed scientists to analyze the spirit caveman's genome. The results were unequivocal and astonishing. Far from being unrelated to Native Americans, the spirit caveman's DNA revealed that he was, in fact, a direct ancestor of modern native populations in North and South America. His genetic markers aligned most closely with those of the Falin Paiute Shoshone tribe and other indigenous groups spread across the continent. The evidence was so definitive that the U.S. government reversed its position. In 2016, after 76 years in storage and 2 decades of legal wrangling, the spirit caveman was formally returned to the Falin Paiute Shoshone people. In a private and emotional ceremony, they reburied him according to their traditions, far from the public eye and the cold lights of scientific scrutiny. For the scientific community, it was a humbling moment. For decades, assumptions about ancient migration patterns and the origins of Native Americans had led to the denial of tribal claims. The spirit caveman reminded the world that science, while powerful, is not infallible, and that sometimes the voices of those whose ancestors walked the land carry truths that DNA only later confirms. His genome also helped rewrite the history of migration into the Americas. The old Clovis first model, once dominant, was discarded. Instead, researchers began to accept that multiple waves of migration occurred earlier than previously thought, possibly by sea routes along the Pacific coast. The spirit caveman A.S. genetic legacy became one of the crucial data points that reshaped our understanding of ancient human movement. He was not a visitor from another land or a rogue lineage. He was Native American, and he had been all along. The story of the spirit caveman is more than a fascinating archaeological tale. It is a reflection of the ongoing tensions between discovery and dignity, between data and belief. For decades, a man who lived over 9,000 years ago was held in limbo, not just in a museum vault, but in a national debate about who gets to control the narrative of America's past. In the end, it was DNA, an invisible thread of truth buried deep within his bones, that resolved the mystery. But it also took activism, legal persistence, and the unwavering conviction of a tribe who knew, without doubt, that he was one of their own. His legacy goes beyond genetics. He has become a symbol of the need for respect in science, of listening to indigenous voices, and of reconciling modern tools with ancient wisdom. The spirit caveman may have been buried in a desert cave thousands of years ago, but in his quiet stillness, he spoke volumes. He changed how we understand the origins of Native Americans, challenged long-held biases, and reminded us that the past is not just something to be studied, but something to be honored. As of today, the spirit caveman rests in peace. But the impact of his discovery continues to echo through history books, tribal lands, and scientific institutions alike. He is proof that history is never fully written, and that even in death, one man can change everything.